Hello, I'm here with another late upload because I fricked up while recording last time and this happened. But I swear, it was gonna be ready on Saturday, I screwed it up, you know me, I'm kinda dumb sometimes. But either way, uploads are gonna be a little bit shoddy for a bit because I'm approaching the end of my term, so I actually have a lot of finals coming up, big final projects, those fun things. So yeah, while I do plan on still making videos, they might not come out on the weekend. And yeah, so it's kind of hard to work on videos while also having a crunch on finals. So they might not come out perfectly until about 2 weeks from now, and then we'll be all good. But as promised, today I'm going to be making an Omegle tutorial video. The thing is, it's not too crazy difficult, it's just, it uses a lot of programs, so there's a lot of different points of failure. But don't worry, I got it where you literally, if you just follow every step I say, you'll be good, promise. So let's go ahead and do it then. So right out the gate, I want to mention that if you have any of these programs, I highly strongly suggest to just go ahead and get a fresh install of it, because when I was first making my first video, I already had like half the programs that I was using, but it wasn't working until I got a fresh reinstall of everything. So I'm just saying you're probably gonna have that problem, so if you want to just go ahead and avoid it right out the gate, just take a couple minutes to reinstall these programs as I reach them out. So starting off, you're going to want to get Google Chrome. And I'm sure some of you guys don't use Google Chrome as your main browser. The reason we're going to be using Chrome is because it lets you pick your camera and microphone, while other browsers just make it where you use the default, which that doesn't work too well on Omegle, especially with VRChat. It doesn't play too nice with it. But yeah, just go ahead and leave it installed. Don't mess around with it yet. We'll get back to it in a minute. Next, what you're going to want to do is go down to the link in the description labeled OBS. OBS is a recording software that we're going to use to make our stream cam into our Omegle webcam. And the way how we're going to do this is through VRChat. So what we're going to do is, once OBS is done downloading, is go over to the second link titled OBS VRChat. This is an add-on for OBS that lets you record gameplay and make it into a webcam in real time. So now that you got those both downloaded, go ahead and turn on VRChat so we can start getting it all ready. Alright, so now that we got OBS open, what we're going to want to do is open up a new scene. Just do this by going ahead and clicking the plus in the bottom left of the box. I recommend naming it something like VRChat or something like that, because you can have different scenes for different games, but this one is going to be specifically geared towards only VRChat. Next, we're going to be opening up our source. So just go ahead and make a new one, title it VRChat or whatever, and then go ahead and open up these settings that I got right here. What you're going to want to do next is go to this box over here and select choose a specific window. Then in the list of windows below, make sure to pick VRChat. By then, your window should appear on screen. Now at this point, it's probably a good idea to bring out your stream cam in VRChat. That way then you can go ahead and start getting the framing right. So over here you can see that when I start out, it's not quite in frame, so you can just go ahead and use these bars to adjust it. And then this setting right over here will help you get it all ready and beautiful. You don't need to get it perfect, you just need to get it roughly good enough. They're not really going to be able to tell on calls if you're like 4 pixels short of a full cam. So next, open up your tools and go to your virtual cam. Just go ahead and copy these exact settings I have right here. Don't change any of them, they work perfectly fine, I promise. That's what I use all the time. Alright, so now that we're done with OBS, go ahead and keep it running, and let's go back over to Google Chrome. Now once you're back in Chrome, go ahead and go over to your settings, and then you're going to want to go down over to your site settings. This is where you're going to be able to pick your camera and your microphone. So the camera you're going to want to pick is OBS Virtual Cam, and then your microphone, you're going to want to pick your headset microphone. Once you got that all ready, then we can head over to Omegle. Now once you're in Omegle, go ahead and go over to the video spot, and just go ahead and get it all set in there so you can check if your settings are working, and if it is, great. But now you probably already realized that although it's all working and dandy, you can't see anything once you're in VR because you're in VR. And that's what this next program is for. You guys might have something similar called OVR, but this is just a free version that works exactly the same but with less colors, so this is what I use. So go ahead and go down to the description and go to the link titled OpenVR. This program is basically going to make it where you have a screen in front of you in VR. Once you got it all ready, go ahead and fire it up and just follow me with the settings. It can be a little complicated, but it's pretty easy. So once you got it all ready, go over to the top left, and the first thing you're going to want to do is select your window. So the window you're going to want to pick is the one labeled Google Chrome, Omegle, Talk to Strangers, blah blah blah. And the next thing you're going to want to do is go down to your rendering type and go to GDI Indirect. Make sure that Google Chrome is now at the way front of your screen with no other programs blocking it. This is important because if you don't, then it'll cover it up and then you won't be able to, see anything once you're in game. Now Chrome should be showing up in the middle of OpenVR. but the thing is, your frame rate is probably through the floor. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and reduce the size of Google Chrome on your desktop. Also, to make sure that you have decent frames while in VR, I recommend capping it at 30 FPS. Alright, now just make sure not to minimize anything, and we should be able to head over into VR now and be able to see the screen. Now, the screen might not be the size or anything that you want it to be, and that's where everything at the bottom comes in. So the sliders at the bottom left are going to dictate the position of the window while it's in VR. I recommend having it kind of close and then reducing it in size, that way then the resolution gets higher. Also, I recommend a line in between the videos being about eye level with you when you're in VR. The next settings you can play around with are the ones in the bottom right. That will dictate the opacity and the size of the window. I recommend not having your window too crazy big, because then when you're looking between the two camera feeds, you might end up, not be looking clearly at your camera anymore. So just keep it as a reasonable size, that way then it doesn't look like you're veering up and down away from the camera. As for opacity, I recommend having it at like 9.5, that way then you can see behind it, but it's also fairly clear. Some people have it at just full opacity, that works perfectly fine too. So now if you have this already, you can go ahead and give it a try. Using OpenVR, you will be able to have a mouse while in VR, just make sure to point with the front of your remote rather than with the trigger like you're used to. A mouse should appear on the screen, and then you can go ahead and pull the trigger whenever you want to click something, so it'll let you be able to swap between camera feeds pretty easily. Alright, so while I was editing, a new version of Steam came out that allows you to dock and undock windows. Now, I wanted to check if this would actually work with the Omegle stuff, but I tried it out and it's actually really funky because you have to keep it on one of your hands. So if you were to use it as a screen, you actually have to keep one of your hands perfectly still if you want to be able to see through it. I still recommend going with OVR just because using the Steam docking is going to be a bit of a pain since you got to keep your left hand straight. But I have noticed it's a whole lot less graphically demanding, so if you absolutely cannot use OVR, then maybe you could go ahead and give that a try and see if you get some better frames. In order to make that work, just go ahead and skip the whole OVR section and just pin Omegle to your left hand or to your right hand, whichever one's your non-dominant hand, and just use that as your screen. It is going to be a little bit of a pain though, because you can't actually interact with the screen unless you pull up the Steam VR overlay. So in order to skip people, it's going to take longer and you'd have to go ahead and stop your gestures and everything, so overall I still do recommend OVR, but if you need to try it out, then go ahead. Now back to the normal video. Alright, so now that it's working, I'm pretty sure you guys are concerned about recording. If any of you guys want to be able to do that just to be able to clip funny calls or to go ahead and make your own videos. So the program that I use is called Shadowplay, but that's sadly only exclusive to people with a NVIDIA graphics card in their computer. But if you do have it, I highly recommend it because it comes free with the GeForce experience, and it lets you, instead of just recording in one straight continuous line, it lets you go ahead and clip the past however many minutes you want, which is pretty good for making sure that you don't have, like 30,000 hours worth of recording that you have to edit through, and instead like 15-minute clips. But yeah, if that doesn't work out, then just go ahead and use whatever recording software works well for you, and make sure that Google Chrome is at the wavefront of the screen. That way then you can go ahead and capture everything. And now for a little elephant in the room. The thing is, VRChat players who go on Omegle get banned really often, like really often. That's because Omegle immediately detects the fact that we're not using a real camera and it thinks that we might be a bot. But there are ways to reduce the chances of getting banned outright. So the first tip that I have is don't skip people too fast. This is because Omegle is already suspicious that you might be a bot, so if you're skipping people really fast, they're gonna assume that you're just spamming people and then leaving immediately. So just go ahead and avoid that because that can end really badly really quick. The second tip is don't use a very suggestive avatar. The thing is, Omegle does have lewd filters, so if you're out here with an anime avatar that's showing way too much cleavage or is wearing a super skinny undies, Omegle's gonna detect that, it's gonna think it's a real person, and you're gonna get banned really quick. So make sure to use avatars that are presentable and won't trip off any filters. Next is make sure to always use hashtags. The thing is, when you're not using any hashtags, you'll run into a lot of people who will skip you outright, and then the whole problem from tip 1 will go ahead and come again. So I recommend using hashtags. Of course, you can use hashtags that are just your general interests, but the ones that might get you a lot of hits are things like YouTube, anime, gaming, whatever console you play on, things like that. If you're in college and you're down for it, you can also use the dorm chat mode that they have to make it where you're only talking with people who have also verified that they're in a college, and that will also work just pretty much the same. One last tip, and this one's actually really important because a lot of people don't know it's a thing. Omegle actually doesn't let you play copyrighted music in their calls. They can ban you for that. So the thing is, if you're in a room that is playing copyrighted background music, you need to mute that because they'll be able to hear it and they'll set off the triggers. If you're in a crowd and there's people like, you know, doing the DJ thing where they play a bunch of music, don't make sure that you're not on call because you can get taken down for that. And it happens quite often. So yeah, just make sure to follow that and you should be safe on Omegle. So that's it. You should be able to now use Omegle in VRChat. Also, for those of you who made it this far, I actually have a big surprise coming up for an upcoming video. It's not going to be for the next one, but it's probably going to be for the one coming after that. So be ready for something big. See you then.